Welcome back to the Professional Lovers channel. I'm Al.
And I'm Patty, and we are the
Professional
Professional Lovers. And we're glad to be getting to you before the week is out.
Yay.
With this week's episode. And pray for us. We're going to have to find another way to watch this show if we're going to keep this up.
Yeah.
But we'll do it. So if you've never listened to us before, we have been married 27 years. We enjoy talking about relationship issues through the lens of Married at First Sight. I have been a Married at First Sight fan since season 1. And he just started watching it with me last season, I think.
Season before.
Season before? The season before.
It had to be before that. We've done this quite
several
a bit.
videos. So, okay, so at least 2 seasons. So
I've been around a while.
He's still a newbie though. But anyway, so we enjoy talking about the issues because they are issues that all couples face, whether you are married, seriously dating, and just casually dating. There's still some issues, relationship issues, and relationship issues that don't have to necessarily be
issues.
Romantic relationships.
Oh, true.
Right. So that's what we do. And if you like us on the channel. Feedback. We enjoy feedback.
Yes.
Share with us and share with someone else. Tell someone else that you know who's a Married at First Sight fan to take a listen and hopefully you get something out of it. So we're going to get started. Our first 2 couples this time. Our first couple, right. This time, Rachel and Jose.
Okay.
So this episode, they have come back home
or to the new apartment.
Yeah. Right. Moving in together.
Dwelling, yeah.
Right. Honeymoon's over.
Yes.
And for some, honeymoon is really over. And they're moving in together and starting to navigate what that looks like. So Rachel and Jose, and they also visited each other's individual homes,
their own homes,
as the person gathered up stuff to move to the apartment.
Just to get a better understanding of how they live and what type of house they keep, you know.
So Rachel and Jose, of course, Jose's house is laid.
And a minimalist. You know, he's not he doesn't fill every corner.
No, he's, but I'm just talking about the fact that it's a big house and it's,
which is a good thing that he's a minimalist.
Yeah.
There's a lot of house to fill up.
And
he looks good.
But I think Rachel was slightly intimidated by the house, the way it looks, and then his big giant budget on the wall.
That's what got her. It wasn't the 12 Shades of Brown, you know, but
yeah. The budget on the wall, because she's already said that's not her strong point.
True. But it's not a strong point.
Right.
But again, she lives her life and she evidently does fairly decent for herself. I mean, I can't imagine that I can't imagine that the professionals would bring in somebody that had major credit debt or, you know, I mean, especially for this show. Right. Yeah.
Right. But, and then when he went to her apartment, he, you know, neat house and everything. He liked that.
The neatness.
But he was nitpicking on a couple things that started to irk me because, and this happened with a few couples in this episode where their idea of what you should do and how you should do it beyond significant things like money or communication, why make that an issue? Yeah, he made an issue of all of her pencils on her desk.
Those are her trinkets. Those are her memories of the places that she had visited.
Exactly. The memories of the places that she has visited. So she collects pencils. And he was like, well, yeah, do you have to have 50 of them? And I'm like, what do you care? What do the pencils on her desk have to do with you and anything in your relationship?
See, he collects money.
So that annoyed me because so often, and this is a danger in marriage because we've experienced experienced it as well, as in if you are both thinkers and if you are both, very intelligent, and if you are both not shy with your opinions, then it's easy to feel like I have the most efficient way, or I have the better way, or I have the most effective way of doing everything. And
basically it comes down to you finding a way that works for you.
But so often we don't let each other do that.
Right.
We interject what we think is the better way.
And that's not.
And I'm not just saying us. I'm talking about a couple.
Yeah. And you do so because that's what you know.
Right. But I often have to even remind us that there is more than one way to do something. And if it's something that's not going to have a major impact on the family or the couple, then it shouldn't matter how I do it or how you do it.
It shouldn't.
And pencils are not impactful on the couple.
True.
Neither are the empty bottles that she had sitting on the floor in her kitchen that were in the corner. They weren't strewn all around. He was like, "Oh, I was gonna fall. I was gonna trip."
I thought
so many empty things.
I thought he was making a joke of it.
He was making a joke of it, but he noticed it because that's not what he would do.
No, it's not.
He would not have empty bottles sitting on his floor.
No, he probably recycles and throws it away. I mean, she may recycle too, but she doesn't have the space in that. Maybe put it in a separate container away or out of sight or whatever the case may be. I mean, he doesn't know. This is him walking into her space for the first time. I don't even know if he asked, "Do you recycle?"
Well, yeah. And like you said, they have to make drama for the camera. And I'm hoping that the pencils and the empty bottles were drama for the camera.
Yeah.
Because if not, he's going to have a hard time accepting the fact that he did not marry himself.
The whiteboard was enough stress and drama.
Yeah. And
I mean, it's a good thing. I mean, fortunately, he has a method that works for him, and it has served him exceptionally well. Great.
And
fine.
Pastor Cal, in his visit, basically referred to the need for balance.
Exactly.
She needs to become a little bit more conscious of how she spends, but he needs to loosen up and stop snuffing out her fun. Yeah. And those are his words. Don't snuff out her fun. She likes to travel. She likes to experience things. She wants to do that with him. And every time you pour water on, her joy, you're snuffing out the fun. Quit, Jose. Stop snuffing out the fun.
And believe it or not, all of the things that you acquire in life, the material things, you can't take them with you.
Right.
So just like money is made and it's spent. Of course, you want to think ahead and think about your future, but by all means, enjoy yourselves. Enjoy yourselves, collectively, create memories with one another, and share. Share, your knowledge, but also share your fun times.
Right.
So
hopefully they'll get to that balance. Mirla and Gil. Now, one thing I noticed about Gil, he calls her princess. And he calls her that on a regular. And
she accepts it on a regular.
But I wonder when it's going to get old. Because it's already getting old for me. Now, we know that Mirla is a diva. She's already admitted that. We know she spends. He saw her $70,000 closet. And he was intimidated by that. Because as a firefighter, there's no way that you can compete with buying Louboutins 3 times, 4 times a year.
You got red bottoms and you don't know how many of them you have? That was more than the $7,000 closet.
Yeah. And so when they got together with Pastor Cal, and, Gil said that they had talked about her spending habits and whether or not she felt a need to cut down now that she's married. And she was like, "No, I'm not."
But now I had a question. I mean, it came to mind. What if she makes the money that allows her to do whatever she does, because she said she saves, she takes care of the necessities. And again, him being a
Well, she takes care of
fighter.
her necessities.
Right, but I'm just saying, whether it's a condo, whether it's an apartment, the lifestyle that she has, she takes care of herself. She does what she wants to do the way she wants to do. It's not at an expense regarding other things, other than the fact that she's alone.
Well, to me, that's a huge factor.
It is a huge factor.
Because when you bring two people together, it automatically adds to the household expenses.
My question was, what if she ends up making significantly more than he does?
Well, and what we would hope, because it's not what we see or what we hear behind the camera, we would hope that if she has to amend her spending in order to help with the expanded household expenses, being married, that she would.
Yeah, well, I think she would.
It may not mean, she's not going to stop getting her designer clothes and, doing what she does completely. And it shouldn't, if it does not jeopardize the household. And that's a key that I think came out in this episode too, as in, you got to stop thinking single.
True.
And it is a hard adjustment to make for some.
Especially in this case. I mean, one day you're single, the next day you're married.
Right.
So it's a stark transition in mindset.
Yeah.
That people don't necessarily understand, even though they have agreed to be part of this, but they don't necessarily understand the concept of being selfless. Or other-centered.
Other-centered, yes. Other-centered. Yeah. So the other issue between them still is intimacy. And not just sexual intimacy, but just physical intimacy. Like, she hasn't even kissed him yet. And he did kind of give an ultimatum in front of her and Pastor Cal, saying that if he hasn't gotten at least a kiss by 8 weeks, he's done. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because typically we've said ultimatums aren't a good way to address an issue.
But, when you're talking about the rest of your life, there should be a natural progression. If you've dated someone for 2 months, I would imagine you would have kissed them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's understandable.
And you said she reminded you of Karen. From last season.
Although she got a different cavity in there in her being entrenched. Initially Karen was, concerned about the age and all of that, and there was some things that she heard and yada yada yada. But she had her own little insecurities, which don't necessarily come out in Merla. At least they don't come out.
Right, if they're not verbalized.
I believe that there are some insecurities in Merla, which is why she doesn't put herself out. And it might be history, it might be because of being hurt, it might be just fear, and she did I believe she spoke of trust being a factor. And it takes time. And true, it does take time. But I believe that Gil has put himself out to the extent of at least being open to explore each other. Not necessarily physically, but just being
the emotional
open
side, the connection.
And trust me, I believe that some of her walls have come down. Definitely. And that's why I kind of compare her to Karen from a couple of seasons ago, because I see some of the iceberg melting, and if it doesn't melt fast enough, I think it'll be unfortunate, but I really believe that they can be a good. I believe they can be a good power couple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I don't know. I don't know. I
Well,
think.
we'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, I think they could be.
We'll see how the whole physical
Well, I know everybody got their reservations about Umbrella.
connection goes. Yeah. Brett and Ryan. So,
Mm-hmm.
in visiting Ryan's house, she walked in on a deer head on his wall, which would be typical of someone who likes to hunt.
Hey, he had some
And
venison.
he shot it.
He ate well.
And she was not happy. But at least when she asked, was he wedded to that being like in the house? And he said, no, it could go in the garage or maybe his man cave.
Yeah.
But, that she's still feeling the extreme differences between country and non-country.
Yeah.
But I like their banter.
True.
They're very playful with each other, with the joking and I like that.
Me personally, I've had to kind of try to put an effort in understanding Ryan's humor, because he's
dry all the way around. But I've known
arid.
people like that.
I haven't.
And they will make jokes with a straight face, and you're like, huh? What?
And I mean, sometimes I do it, but I'm
this
silly.
is like on a regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, very dry humor, but she understands it and she gets it, and they play off of each other really well. I thought it was interesting when they were meeting with Pastor Cal, and Pastor Cal asked him, had he been in love before, and how did he know? And because she was saying that she had a crush on him, and he said, well, love, it's a feeling, and when you feel like you value someone more than yourself. And then he had to ask him, do you feel like that? Yeah. And he said no.
No, but he felt he could get there. And I think it, I don't know.
You felt it kind of took some wind out of her sails.
Yeah, I think it did. And it's just from his response. I think it's understandable that, he's not there yet, but it was just a matter in how he...
But he did say he's beyond like.
Yeah.
So that kind of helps.
It does.
And you have to be honest. If you're asked that question point blank, you can't say I love somebody if you don't.
True. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Just to save face or just to not hurt their feelings. Yeah. So I think she took it in stride, personally.
I think so.
Bao and Johnny. Oh, the wheels are starting to wobble on Johnny. They haven't fallen off yet, but they're getting close.
The wheels are wobbling.
The wheels are wobbling on Johnny. They still have the best communication skills out of everybody. Mm-hmm. But Johnny felt the need to go home after they got to the apartment, which is always a bad sign.
That's a blowout on a
When you're married,
car.
You can't just get up and go.
Really?
At least you should not.
And if you're serious about a relationship,
go to another room.
At whatever level, you shouldn't flight.
Yeah.
Flight's not an option.
That is not an option.
Not for any sustainability of a true relationship. Because where's the trust factor? If something goes wrong, something goes bad, something becomes uncomfortable, your first thing is flight.
And he's another one like Jose who projects his own routines and his own what he likes to do onto someone else, like they're supposed to do that too.
Yeah.
You need to take a shower every evening. Not just you need to take a shower every day, but you need to take a shower every evening before you come to bed. I'm grown, and if I don't want to take a shower in the evening, I'm not going to. And she basically said that. No, I'm not doing that. And that bothered him.
Yeah.
Because she's not willing to do it his way.
Yeah.
Now, y'all, everybody's got their own hygiene routines and preferences. Mm-hmm. And that comes to showering, versus bathing, versus how often you shower, how often you bathe, how often you wash up. Let's just assume that any average normal person will not walk around stinking. Okay, let's just assume that. Yeah. So now, what you do, how you do after all of that, you know, and everybody's got little idios. I don't like us sitting on the sheets that we sleep on in street clothes. Okay, that's just me. Because you sit everywhere, you go everywhere in your street clothes, and I don't want that transferring onto the sheets that we actually put our bodies on. But pull the top sheet up, fine. Pull the underside of the spread over, fine. Okay. But I'm not going to say when you have to shower and how often you have to shower. What I will say is, honey, I can smell you. That's all I need to say. And then you handle it. If I had to say that. I don't have to say that.
Thank you very much.
Yes. If I had to say that.
Okay.
Okay. Because you're grown.
Yeah.
Ball's grown, Johnny. Okay.
Very grown.
And I also, it's interesting. When he got, first of all, I like when he said he was leaving and she was like, well, you know, that concerns me because if that's what's going to be your
MO. Yeah,
then I question your commitment to this marriage. So I like the fact that she put it right out there. Fine, you can go. I'm not stopping you, but just know that I'm looking at that as a lack of commitment.
True.
Especially if that's a normal response.
Yeah, our first response.
But when he came home, now it's interesting that he's been all worried about how touchy-feely she's going to be. And yet he barricaded himself in pillows, which he's been doing since the honeymoon. Mm-hmm. And she said, this is his thing. Mm-hmm. The pillows are there because of him.
Yeah.
So he's barricading himself with pillows, right? But he complains that he's worried that she's not going to be touchy-feely enough for him, or the physical intimacy is not going to be what he needs it to be. And then he gave a revelation with Pastor Cal. He revealed that her giddiness when she's happy, which he interprets as being kitty,
is immature,
is a turnoff.
Yeah.
Because she's not passionately ripping at his clothes to make him feel like a hot hunk. So therefore, he's not attracted to her. Mm. And, you know, she took it. She took it like a champ. But she's like, yeah, that doesn't make me feel good. It definitely doesn't make me feel attractive. And again, you making that an issue. Now, let's realize everybody doesn't come to a relationship with the same strengths. And if she's not a hot, heavy, passionate romantic, it doesn't mean that she has no romance or feelings of romance.
And she's not just there for you.
And, you know, you kind of have to pick up the slack. You got to pick up each other's slack.
True.
I mean, you know, so there and again, he has these specific expectations. And remember, he went into this saying, I usually let the women pursue me because I need to feel like I'm wanted. Yeah. Yeah, well, that goes both ways.
True. Everybody wants to be wanted.
So, hopefully, you know, his one little jaunt away
will be the last.
Yeah. But I don't know, because in the prelims for next week, he looks like the wheels are coming off a little bit more.
Second blowout.
Yeah. Well, our last couple, who we haven't been able to talk about a lot because they did not spend their honeymoon together, Michaela and Zach. Zach came home, surprised her. She was excited, and the next morning, there is a blow up.
Ghost.
A dust up. He was gone. No text, no note, no wake up, honey, I got to run, take the dog somewhere, I'll be back. But again, he's thinking singly. And she was ticked.
Quite.
And she was volatile with herself, you know, by herself.
Yeah.
And then she did exactly what she claims she would not do. And he called her on it. When they were talking about, what's our first fight going to look like? And, if we fight, how do you respond when you're in a fight? Do you leave and walk away and leave the house or whatever? Oh, no. That's abusive. I would never do that. I think that's abusive to somebody. Okay, good. And what did she do?
Ghost.
She packed up and left.
Not knowing what the situation was.
Exactly.
Fortunately it wasn't an emergency, although everything could have been handled differently.
On both ends.
Yeah.
But definitely that did not warrant that kind of reaction.
True.
And yet, when they were there waiting on Pastor Cal, you had me stop the show and you asked me a couple of questions. Do you remember?
Basically, what is it that they needed?
Right. What did he need? Mm-hmm. What do you think he needs?
Yeah.
And then what do you think she needs?
Right.
And I said he needs kind of understanding. He needs someone to be able to hear him out and be heard, and she needs security.
Yeah. He needs someone that he can trust. And in a way that, because again, I think both of their efforts and actions were extremely immature.
Inexperienced.
Whether or not she is the one that will help him mature, I don't know. But I can pretty much say if it comes down to them not seeing this through, it will be because of their immaturity.
Yeah.
And their unwillingness to yield to learning and accepting and being amenable and adaptable to another person's way of doing things. And even if they are disliked or if you have concerns with them, they have to be discussed as opposed to argued.
Yeah.
And, I don't believe that he's an arguer, but I believe she's mouthy at times. And I don't think that that's a good blend when it comes down to communication, and their communication styles are going to have to change.
Yeah. Well,
on both parts.
The one thing that we said about the two of them, as well as some others, and that is the baggage. Yeah. She's got an enormous amount of baggage from her father's death and other things, and he's got an enormous amount of baggage from other relationships, and that's their first go-to.
Yeah, exactly.
And if they don't if they don't move their baggage out of the way of the door, then they're not going to be able to open the door to learn about each other individually.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because the baggage is right now the baggage is standing in the way.
It's packed up in front of the door.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a problem. So
unpack.
Move it. So that's it. Yeah. That's all of our couples. Now, at the end of last week, which was actually on Sunday, you asked a question about pets and whether or not a person who has a pet or used to pets versus a person who's not used to pets, whether that would be a deal breaker. And nobody answered. So we don't have anything to report on as far as the feedback. But you can still answer that.
True, you can.
And you can also answer, how does a person release baggage that they have built up through past relationship hurts or difficulties in order to let a new person come in, to let yourself become vulnerable to a new person? What do you think? What's the best way to do that? So we'll see if you have that to answer for next week. Please
leave a message, leave thoughts if you need to answer a question with a question.
All right. Until then, yes, ask it, we'll answer. And until then, have a good week and stay safe. Peace.
Enjoy.